Glad to be here, and again, I'm going to bring this back into our crop and what and where and what we're dealing with in the state of Georgia with this crop. We are known for a very good yielding, high quality crop, but not without issues. And so that's what I'm going to kind of go over real quickly. All right, so this is, a pre-harvest meeting per se, because we are just getting started in our harvest season. And I put this together for growers and actually went down to a meeting in Seminole County, which is in our very much the western tip of our southern part of Georgia. And I stuck that up there and go, well, there's no need to say this is pre-harvest anymore, because they were knee deep in harvest. And so I had to change that a little bit. The second part of this is, for you that have not heard about us, we do put out a podcast called All About the Pod. And if you really want to hear about what's going on with peanuts in the state of Georgia, it's a good one to kind of listen to. It comes out every Friday, and so it's just one of those that you can get more information. All right, I'm going to show here in just a minute. We're 75 to 80 counties at our peak. I think it's around 75 now. 3,000 growers that grow peanuts. That may be a little bit less now. We have been losing some growers over the last several years. And since 2015, we've gone from 650,000 acres to 911,000 acres this year. So that is a large change for us, and a lot of that comes from the cotton side of things. We are the number one producer in the U.S. We far outproduce any other state. We are somewhere around 55 to 60% of all the peanuts grown in the U.S. And again, we're at 911,000 acres. The closest one to us is right at 200,000 acres. So again, we produce quite a bit and think that we produce a pretty good bit. Now, in the state of Georgia, we produce these in the coastal plain. So anything with color on it that produces peanut in those counties, we are sitting in the south central part of the state down here. In Lowndes County. So that just kind of gives you an idea. This is quite a bit. The southwest part of the state is the historical producing area of the state. However, when the Farm Bill, when the quota system went out, we started growing peanuts all over the coastal plain. So quite a few acres spread out among all these different counties. We have one predominant variety, and you can't read that, but that's Georgia 06G. That's been the most prominent variety that we've grown for the last 15 years. It is slowly starting to move away, go away, and the new varieties are starting to fill in. So you may hear about some other varieties as we talk on the tour, and that's because of disease resistance, whether that's nematode resistance or tomato spotted wilt resistance or some of the other ones. Now, things that are also changing. We're normally in a 3 to 4 year rotation, which is great because of disease. We rotate with cotton and corn. But for the last several years, that has changed. More than 45% of the growers that we surveyed this past year have moved into a 0 to 1 year out of peanut. So consistently peanut, or 1 year in between that peanut crop. That is not what we want to see happen in the state of Georgia. It does hurt us, will hurt us in the near term. The other thing is, typically we're about 50 to 60% intensive tilled soil. So we disc a lot, we deep turn our soils to kind of help with disease problems, weed problems, and that has now turned. We are such in an economic situation right now that we're about 38% deep turned, intensively tilled. The rest of it is in some kind of a reduced tillage practice. And that's to save on time and fuel and energy in the field. So you're going to see a lot more of this as we're out and about. It's or the results of this. And you're going to hear a lot about the economic scenario. All right, so let's talk about the crop. Overall, when you're riding around on the tour bus, you're going to see that our peanut crop looks pretty good. The caveat there is, hopefully it's going to be irrigated that you're going to be looking at. 3 to 4 weeks ago, everything, I'd say probably 4 weeks ago, everything looked like this. But we have retreated on our non-irrigated crop. We're probably right at 55 to 60% irrigated, the rest of it's non-irrigated. And that's quite a few acres, and that non-irrigated amount of acres are retreating fast. And we're going to lose part of this crop because of that, both yield and quality. So you're going to get to see that. When we started this year, there was a lot of concerns. Growers running out of resources, growers not getting financed. And a lot of this is because of cotton. And that hurt us, and that's kind of rolled over in the peanut because they're trying to figure out what can I cut back on but still produce this crop. And we are seeing the results of some of the things cutting back on, like fungicide programs, irrigation, and fertility. It's things that are or will impact the yield and quality of this crop for the most part. So some things that we're dealing with there. Again, early season, we didn't have that many mishaps. Had a few things withstand, but for the most part, we had one of the best starts we've had in 3 to 4 years. And so it looked good. It continued to look good throughout the year. We spread out our planting from about April the 12th all the way to June the 15th to 20th, some a little bit later than that. But for the most part, we looked excellent as we approached into July, going into the first part of August. Again, mid-season pictures, we did not have as much tomato spotted wilt this time. Most of everything looked good. We did start to pick up on some deficiencies in fertility. A lot of that's because our pHs went up in some of our fields. We've raised them so high. But again, we can deal with that. So overall, if this tour was the 1st of August, we would have had almost everything good to look at. And there are going to be some bads out here that you're going to get a chance to see or go or drive by, and it's just the result of the bad year. We have been without rain in a large part of the state since August the 22nd on average. Some around August 29th, some earlier than that. And so that's a bad thing when you're trying to put on crop and it's trying to set pods and pegs if you don't have rain. So that's something that we're going to see, and we're not expecting. We got a lot of irrigation, but irrigation is not supposed to be there to make the whole crop. It's to supplement. And right now it's doing a good job, but the dry land is, we can't help that. We have had disease, quite a bit of disease, but we have managed them. White mold, we've been able to shut that down. It got started. It was really bad at one point. The cooler temperatures has helped. But leaf spot, you're going to see, if you get the chance to walk in the field, you're going to see leaf spot in almost every field in this state, no matter where you're at. It's coming on strong right now. And again, that might have been because of all the rains that we had in early August, the last part of July. And even though we put on fungicides, we probably washed them off. And as crazy as it is, as dry as we've been for the last 6 weeks, we've had a heavy dew almost every morning. And that's hard to believe, but we have. And that's all the moisture that leaf spot needs. And so it's been tough dealing with leaf spot. We've also had some kind of the worst case scenarios. This is a variety trial that I had several years ago, but this gives an kind of a real life look at some of the struggles that some of these growers are having. I didn't deep till. I didn't use the fungicide program that I should have used. And I might have not have had the right variety out there. And right now, I'm very much not matured out, and I'm losing ground very fast. And so we have to make a lot of distinctions here, a lot of decisions on where to get these or when to get these. And some of these type varieties would have to come out very early. Now, luckily, that was several years ago. We've not seen that kind of situation yet from the disease aspect. But when you throw in the drought, we are making decisions right now that we're having to dig 2 to 3, 4 weeks early in a dry land if we can get the digger in the ground to save the crop we got. And that's where we're at. This is what they look like. And again, I talked about the last time we got greater than a ½ inch of rain. August 29th was for Tifton, Douglas, 23rd to 16th, 22nd. That's a long time ago now. And, we are always 2 weeks from a drought when we're talking about crops. So in the state of Georgia, it seems like. But you're going to see a lot of this. And we are definitely educating our growers as much as possible. one, to try to go ahead and get these and save the good crop that's on there, but also not to mix these or blend these with our irrigated crop. Because what? We don't want any aflatoxin situations. And so we try to do our best job at educating growers. I've been doing several meetings this week and last week trying to help get growers on the same page about what we need to do. This is kind of interesting. Scott Tubbs put this together, but water use requirements for April planted is the blue bar, and the red bar is if you planted in June. What is that? That is the water use curve for peanut. And all I'm trying to show here is we start off, when we start blooming on either one of these curves, the water use goes up. And we peak out somewhere between 60 and 80 days on water use for that crop at those particular times. This little line that goes across the dotted line there, that's how much rainfall we typically get in the year. And you can see a lot of times we don't meet 100% of the chance. We don't meet the water use needs of the crop. That's why we have irrigation in a lot of these areas. The problem is, no matter whether you're irrigated or not, this little line right here is where we're at for the last 6 weeks. This line would be right there. We have received 0 rain in the last 6 weeks. And we're in, no matter when we planted, we're seeing effects in our blooming and pod set period, and that's hurt us. And we're going to even see some effects in our irrigated crop. So when we talk about high yields, we may not reach where we could. Some of my talks with the industry, for the most part, I've talked about high yields, and I would have said we would have been somewhere around 4,300 pounds as a state average. Over the last 3 weeks, I would guess now we're somewhere close to 4. And that might come on down. It just depends on the situation. We have other problems too. We've got these critters that run around our fields and decide they want to have a salad, get in our salad bar, and they don't stop. So deer is a problem. This is an 85-day-old peanut field. This is actually here in Lowndes County last year. And so that should be completely lapped up and completely blooming, set a crop already, and it is not done either. And they have come in, and it's like a lawnmower, and mowed that field down from one side to the other. We tried to get a field for you to look at like this, so I wanted to throw a picture. But also, well, how many deer does that take to do something like that? So I tried to give you an example, and I showed this before. This is how many deer at night in one of these fields. And just start counting. It's a lot. I think we stopped at 100, over 100 in this field. And I guarantee you in some of these fields you could double that. And so they're nice, they're cute, but as high as prices as cows are right now, they're kind of a substitute. We need to do something with them. They're hurting our crops as well. So that's something we got to deal with. So challenges with harvest right now, we need rain to finish off the last half of this crop. If we don't get a rain in the next 3 weeks, the last half of this crop or last third of the crop may just be not harvested at all on dry land. I'd say that. And that's a harsh word, and I'm saying I can't predict that. But you got to realize they're putting on fresh, nice little pods here. Without rain, they're not doing that. And so they're going to start aborting them pretty quick. Rain is needed to dig them. There are a lot of places that we can't get in the ground right now. So it's a lot of different things that we got to deal with. And just depends on when we get this rain. If we can get a rain, we're going to put a lot of acres on the ground in a hurry because of the situation we are in right now, which means that we're going to bottleneck the buying points too. So it's going to make something that we thought we had covered with our spread out planting scenario. Now it's kind of bottlenecked it back down. So we're going to have to see how that works. Again, this is just what I gave to, if you look at our 911,000 acres, last year we went 3,900 pounds per acre. I thought we'd be this year around 4,300 pounds, but I think it's going to be somewhere in between this. But at our acres, we're still going to make a huge crop. We just don't know the quality of what that crop's gonna be like. I think our irrigated crop is gonna look wonderful. So that part of this, the 55% of this crop, I think we got a good crop on our hands. The rest of it is just depending on whether or not we can get it out and do something with it before it goes bad.